Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with coverage of the tiebreak of the final of the 2017 Women's World Championship. 4 classical games had been played between Zhongyi and Anna Muzychuk. 2 points all after the 4 classical games. Zhang had won game 2, Muzychuk had won game 3. So on Friday the 3rd of March the tiebreak would decide. 2 games of rapid were played, of 25 minutes per player plus a 10-second increment. If needed, 2 more games of blitz, 10 minutes plus 10 seconds would be played. If the score would still be the same, then there would be 2 games of 5 minutes per player plus a 10-second increment, which was interesting because for the whole tournament at this stage there would be a 5-minute plus a 3-second increment, but for the final they moved that to 10. And if the score would have been still the same, still equal, then it would be 1 Armageddon game, sudden death. White 5 minutes, black 4 minutes, with an increment of 3 seconds after move 60. In case of a draw, black would be the world champion. The first rapid game with Muzychuk behind the white pieces was drawn. Muzychuk was slightly better, but was not able to bring home the advantage, and the game ended in a draw. This first rapid game ended as any draw should end, with bare kings. On this picture you see the handshake and you see only 2 kings on the board. That's true fighting spirit. Let's have a look at the second rapid game. Zhang, white, Muzychuk, black. d4, d5, c4, c6, the Slav defense. Knight f3, knight f6, and g3. Bishop f5, knight c3, e6, and Zhang had prepared knight h4. So maybe instead of e6, black could have played h6, so that after knight h4 the bishop could go safely to h7. But there's nothing wrong with e6. And after knight h4, Muzychuk thought for a while. The bishop can go to g6, to g4, or to e4. But in the end, Muzychuk decided to take on c4. Knight takes, e takes, and it looks like an ugly double pawn, but it's okay. One of the advantages for black is that she now has control over the e4 square. It won't be as easy for white to push through the e2 e4 move. White has to make sure she gets her pawn back, so she played e3, knight bd7, bishop takes, knight b6, kicking the bishop, bishop went back to e2, bishop d6 developing, bishop f3, it's a nice diagonal for the bishop, castle, castle, and rook e8. Queen c2, queen d7, b3 to develop the other bishop, rook e7, knight a4, rook a e8, knight c5, hitting the queen. Queen went back to c8, and the bishop goes to d2. Knight bd5, rook ac1, and around here in the live broadcast Grandmaster Miroshnichenko thought Muzychuk should have played actively on the king side and pushed the h5 move. She played knight e4 instead, which looks very logical. Bishop back to g2 and g6. Zhang played b4, queen c7, anticipating the b5 push, and then she wants to make sure her queen is protected well enough. Knight takes e4, f takes, and there comes b5. You cannot take that pawn, because then there is queen b3, very strong move, hitting the queen and the knight on d5, and you're losing material with black. It looks like black is in trouble because that pawn on c6 is hanging. It's attacked 3 times, only defended twice. But black has a way out. Bishop a3 hitting the rook. Rook b1. And now you can take on b5. Queen b3, keeping the queens on the board. And not only that, attacking 2 pieces. Both the bishop and the knight are attacked. But there's a way, the only way, to defend both pieces, queen d6. And white took back the pawn on b5. Rook c8 on the open file. Queen b3. The bishop on a3 could get into trouble. Muzychuk played king g7. She may want to push the f-pawn to f5 to protect the pawn on e4. And then she does not want to have white's queen and her king on the same diagonal for tactical reasons. Bishop c1, that solves the problem for black of the bishop on a3. She took, rook takes, rook c6, those rooks were traded, and queen a3. Queen b6 from Muzychuk, rook c1 from Chan, and queen b4. That is a pawn sacrifice. She could have played a6 here with an equal position, but Muzychuk, expects to get active play with her pieces in return for the pawn. Chan took on a7 and knight c3. Black indeed has active pieces, and white's pieces look, for the moment, uncoordinated. There's a threat of knight e2 check, picking up the rook, and Chan played rook f1. Queen c4, queen back to a3, and rook e6. That rook was hanging, and Muzychuk plays it to e6 with the idea to go to a6. Rook e1, and there goes the rook to a6. Queen e7, rook takes a2, and bishop takes e4. White is a pawn up, and it looks like it's going to be a race between the d pawn and the b pawn. b5 from Muzychuk, bishop f3, and b4. Muzychuk was getting really low on time. She only had just over a minute left, while Chan still had 8 minutes. Queen e5 check, and black is in trouble. Of course, white always has a perpetual here. If the king goes back to g8, queen e8 is a perpetual, but there's no chance that Chan would have gone for that. She has a much better position here, and she has a lot more time on the clock. The problem for black is that if the king goes back to g8, which was the right move, then she's going to lose the foot race between the pawns. Let's have a quick look. d5, b3, d6, b2, d7. Yes, black promotes first, but that doesn't help, because if you promote, there is d8 queen, checkmate. Which means that after king g8 and d5, black has to defend, set up some defense to stop the b pawn. And with almost no time on the clock, that is very difficult. After queen e5 check, Muzychuk's right hand hovered over the black king once, twice, and then in the end she moved the king to h6, which was a blunder that finishes the game immediately. Chan had seen it and immediately played g4, setting up a mating net around the poor black king. The threat is g5 checkmate, f6 played by Muzychuk, queen takes with still that same checkmate threat. With seconds on the clock she produced rook a5, but after h4 Muzychuk reached out her hand in resignation. On this picture you see Muzychuk's hand ready to make the fatal king move. And on this picture you see the position, the final position of the game, just before Muzychuk resigned. So Zhang Zhongyi from China is the 16th women's world champion. She won the rapid in the final with 1.5 against half a point. In the press conference she said, "I don't think the tournament was very tough. I was very calm and treated each match as a separate tournament. I'm very happy with the result. I never expected to win. It was one of the best experiences in my chess career. I hope I can go further. My match against Zhongyi-Anna was the most difficult in this tournament, as well as the tiebreak against Harika. Both those matches went to the Armageddon game. I didn't have any special preparation before this tournament. I was celebrating Chinese New Year. I will visit the city of Tehran in the next few days and will not spend my prize money. I'll save it in my bank account." The first prize was $60,000. These are the winner and the runner-up of the 2017 Women's Chess World Championships. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. This is Rick from Chess to Impress. You also may want to check out my Chess to Progress channel. There's quite a bit of material there as well. Thank you very much for watching.